morning.
How's everyone this morning? We are here.
We are ready.
We are ready.
To teach about elder maturity.
Yes, this is the last one in this series.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm sad it's going to be over. But we have lots more interesting things to come. So,
yes, absolutely.
But not to say that this one's not going to be awesome, because it is. Elder maturity is one of those things that nobody talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maturity is kind of
one of those
something
things
nobody talks about. But elder maturity in particular isn't something that we really discuss in our culture.
No, we don't. We almost I don't want to say we look over elders, but we kind of look over elders.
Or we just assume that just because they're in elder stage that they're just mature, like elder age stage.
Yeah.
That, like, who are we to say what maturity is for an elder?
Right. But there's a lot to say.
There is a lot to say
about it. And
we're going to say it today.
We are. And this is actually, I think this is maybe my favorite stage to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is.
There's so much richness to it.
Yeah, there is. And if we can actually get to that spot, we'll talk about that a little bit too, just how not a lot of people are there, but it's such a freeing actually place to be, and it's absolutely needed for our communities to thrive and for our families to grow. And it's kind of like this, we just underestimate the power of an elder.
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, we do.
And so I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, well, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so as always, we start with a quick maturity overview. In case you're watching this video for the first time, we want to just set the stage for what maturity actually is. So maturity is, in our definition and in the Life Model Works definition, reaching my God-given potential in every age and stage of life. And so there's 5 stages.
Yes, 5 stages, which are infant, child, adult, parent, and elder, which is where we are today.
Yep. And the maturity stages are kind of like a roadmap to help you know where you are. And the goal of learning about maturity is not about pointing out where gaps are for the point of pointing out a gap,
right?
And to make any incitements on that. Mm-hmm. However, what it is it's really, really a gift for us. In our story, we struggled for a really long time, and in elder maturity, this is a great point.
Yeah.
And we'll share some more of our story. But we had been in leadership, we had been parents, we had been in church leadership for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And until we realized that we were not mature, that there was a lot of gaps that were missing, that we both caused us to suffer on the inside and caused other people to suffer on the outside.
Absolutely.
And we see it over and over again now that we've learned about it, that this is very real for most people.
Yes.
But nobody knows about it. And
we don't talk about it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it. And once we knew, it was super life-giving and freeing to know, okay, so I have a gap in child maturity. All right, well, hey, guess what? It's fixable.
Right.
So we can go back and fix it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stealing his paperwork.
Yeah.
We're going to share this.
Yes, we are going to share this one. So maturity, also part of that maturity overview, is that maturity is valuable. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely valuable. It's valuable for the people, for yourself, the people around you, like we mentioned earlier, but it does not give you value.
Or take away your
value. Because again, we are inherently valuable because of who Jesus is and who the Lord created us to be. The fact that you are breathing makes you valuable. So please know that.
Yeah, because this is actually pretty tough work.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched our other videos, go back and watch. There's so much great knowledge, but it can be a little bit painful.
Yeah.
And so we just want to remind people that if you find yourself with gaps in your maturity, doesn't determine your value.
Absolutely.
Maturity isn't automatic. It doesn't happen. We've talked about that obviously many times before, and is key at this elder maturity conversation is that just because you are in the elder maturity stage, it does not, like in life, doesn't actually mean you're actually mature enough to be there.
Right.
Which can be a little bit painful, because I think as a community, we assume and then get frustrated when they're not. And as an elder, sometimes we can exhibit power like we are mature enough to be there, and we're not.
You're not.
So We'll talk more
about that. Yeah. I mean, maturity can be blocked by lack of healthy relationships, unresolved issues, and unresolved trauma in your life. So that can stop maturity at any stage from being completed in you and completing the tasks that you need to be mature. Also, maturity never ends.
No, never ends.
It's an ongoing, ever evolving, ever life-giving thing.
Well, it's something that has to be practiced out every day.
Yeah.
And it's something too that can't be practiced out alone.
Yes.
We need, as we'll talk about today, we need both. We have tasks and jobs to do in each stage, but we also have needs from our community to be able to meet in order for us to grow. Yeah. And so the Lord did create us to be in relationship with people and with Him, and our growth is dependent on that. Yeah. Which can be a little bit scary of a statement when there's not great community that may exist around you or in your community, like your actual physical community.
Very true. And like always, guys, we have 3 main goals for these Wednesday workshops. So the first one is always just to make you aware of maybe some of the gaps in some of the areas in your life that you need to work on, that you need to go to the Lord and pray about, that you need to find community to help you fill. The other one is that we want to give you practical tools that you can walk away from this as soon as this is over, that you can begin to grow in that area of maturity. Right. And then that last one is just because, like we said, community is so important, and you are someone's community. Yeah. So what are the tasks that you can do to help those in your community mature in those areas of, in this case, of an elder, and what that looks like. So those are our 3 always. Yep.
So maturity stages do build on each other. So you have your infant, child, adult, parent, and elder. And it is a compounding effect. So you can't, although we grow whether we want to or not, right? Time passes, years pass, and we find ourselves in the next stage, even if we're not prepared for it. But there is a compound. The goal is that each maturity task that's learned, each is then built on. It's used to build on in the next stage, and then the next stage, and the next stage, which is super important at this point, because being an elder is actually, I have completed all of the stages in a healthy manner, and I'm living and practicing those daily. So that is really the definition of an elder. Yeah. And that I'm going to go back down into the community and help them learn all that I have learned.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah. And that's the whole thing, especially once you get to that parent stage, because that's where you are able to take care of yourself and someone else and take care of them sacrificially, to where even though it may cost you something, you're willing to go back and help those underneath you mature. So your children, the next generation, so from infant to child. And so you're always going back to grab them and pull them and teach them into that next level of maturity. And so as an elder, you've done that. And so now you're surveying the entire field, and you're saying, who can I go help raise into maturity?
Yeah, the entire community.
The entire community,
yeah. Which is so needed. Like, think about how much we really do need that in our lives, and how little we see that happening. I think here in Western culture, we have a little bit of a concept that elders just get to elder stage, and then they just get to coast. Like coast through the rest of life. Like retirement is the ultimate goal. And it really isn't, not in the way that God designed it. The job is not done at elder stage. In fact, it just begins, and the community is dependent on an elder. So let's not give it all away. Because there's lots to talk about.
So let's go ahead and do a quick
overview
of the other 4 stages.
Okay, so as we were just saying, elders need all of these things to be an elder. Yes. So keep that in mind as we list them off. So mature infants.
So 0 to 3.
0 to 3. And you should see this in an adult.
Yes.
Is they know how to receive. They can rest in quiet. They can regulate emotions, self-calm, and return to joy from every emotion. And they can synchronize and attune to others, which means they can validate others' feelings and get into sync with those.
Yes. And so then we also have some mature children, which would be that ages 4 through 12 for these tasks. And then again, you should see these in adults and in parents. So that person should be able to take care of themselves, and so know what's good for them, know what's not good for them, be able to meet their own needs. Yeah. Very important. Can say what they think and feel, and appropriately ask for what they need. That's a huge one.
That's easy.
our society struggles with that. All ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All ages. Yeah.
That they can do hard things. So that means that you can stick it out. Like it's going to be tough, but I can do this. I can persevere, and I can walk this out and do it. And the last one would be take responsibility for their choices. That's another big one.
That's another big one.
Yeah. So it's not only take care of themselves, it's kind of self-care, but also care for themselves and take responsibility for
what their choices
may be. Yeah.
So mature adults can take care of themselves because they've accomplished that child stage, and they can take care of someone else at the same time. We talk about adults should be in mutually satisfying relationships where the relationship is not just about them, but it's also about the other person meeting satisfaction, and that it should be a cyclical thing for a healthy, mature adult.
Yeah.
Remain relational, even in difficulty. So keeping the relationship bigger than the problem. Can bring self and others back to joy. So again, in the child stage, they learn how to return themselves back to joy from big emotions, but also can now begin to bring others along on that journey. Can protect others from their power. We talked about this one, and that was this one in just putting the material together. It's like, ooh, yeah. As an adult, we begin to gain power. That's the whole concept. And then one thing that's super important to a young adult is gaining power and learning how to use it. But also part of that maturity is learning also how to protect others from it, and not using our power in our relationships for our gain.
Right.
And can have bestowed manhood and womanhood on others.
Such a big one.
Big one. Being an adult is not just being an adult.
Yeah. It's not an age thing. It's not, I'm doing the adult things. It's, am I a man? Am I a woman? And only men and only women can bestow manhood or womanhood on another.
Yeah, all we talk about in society is like, can you adult, and can you provide for yourself, and can you do those type of things? But really, it's not about that. We have lost in a lot of ways what is manhood and what is womanhood.
Yeah.
And we know lots of struggling marriages that are struggling because of that. I know we did.
Yeah.
I know even just in putting this material together, we're like, oh man, if we had just learned how to be a man and learn how to be a woman in our adult stage.
Yeah.
Wow, that would have made a big difference for us.
Yeah, and I think too, when we say that, I think immediately we all have these idealistic or these thoughts in our mind of what does it mean to be a man, or what does it mean to be a woman, that you go out and you provide and you do this, and and you don't take anything from anybody. I mean, like all these like macho things and these feminine things that equate being a man. But is that really what it is?
Yeah, well, we're going to end up doing a teaching on it. We won't tangent this morning.
No.
Yeah, but there's some just really good thoughts about that it's not movie version of manhood and womanhood.
It's not movie worthy.
Yeah, right. But that's what we see. So then we're like, hashtag adulting.
Right.
But then we see these men and then these women, like all us women long to be Wonder Woman, but don't think that's realistic. What if it is?
What if it is? So anyway, we'll talk about that. And also one thing too that we didn't hit here is part of that womanhood and manhood is that it's the rite of passage, which we won't get into that, but that's another huge one. So just keep that tucked away.
Yep.
And we'll get to that.
We'll come back for more information on that.
So
all right. So mature parents.
Mature parents.
Tell me about those.
I will. So again, adults, we start to age 13. That's the young adults begin at 13 because by the time you're 12 years old, you should have learned everything you need to learn.
Right. To take care of yourself. Really that marker at that point. By 13, you should know how to take care of yourself.
Right.
And then begin practicing.
Exactly. Then the job of the community is to help you master and mature in these other areas that we just mentioned. So over the course of time. Yes.
Not until you're like 14.
Yeah. No.
I would say usually till about 25 or so.
Yeah. And so mature parents. So the parent stage starts at the birth of your first child.
Right.
Until your last child reaches adulthood.
13.
So mature parents are able to protect, serve, and enjoy your family. Protect, serve, that's spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, in all the ways that make up who we are. Be able to protect your family, serve, and enjoy your family. Is devoted to taking care of children without expecting to be taken care of by the children in return.
So that's a sacrificial.
Yeah, but basically that sacrificial giving. Like I know that I'm going to take care of you and it's going to cost me something. And then I don't keep note like, well, you kept me up 4 hours last night, so you need to give me 4 hours by myself today. It's none of that.
Yeah. Anybody who's had a baby knows
No,
that's
that's
not
not
a thing.
the
There's
thing.
lots and lots and lots of days and hours and moments of sacrificial giving. And anybody who has a teenager or has, well, really any kid at any stage
Knows that there's sacrificial.
Yeah, and that when, but it's also not just about sacrificial giving, right? Because we can
That's right.
sacrificially give begrudgingly
That's
and
very
with
true.
an attitude.
With joy.
Yeah, with joy,
With joy
is
is
the
the key.
sign of maturity.
Yes.
That when I can give sacrificially as a parent
With joy.
with joy.
Because my sole heart and goal is for them to pass me, create a passing lane.
Oh yeah.
For my kids and
Yeah.
for the next generation with joy.
With joy.
So I'm happy to see them pass me.
Yep.
Not run over me. Pass me. Learn how to bring children through difficult times, children and family, from the big six emotions, the big six negative emotions. We'll just say those, make sure we do that. So you can bring people back to joy from those negative emotions.
Yep. Which we can never list the six.
No, but I think I might be able to do it.
Oh, let's see.
All right, so we're going to go sadness, anger, fear and anxiety, disgust, hopelessness and despair, and shame.
You did it.
Bam! Took 8 weeks. Took, I don't know, maybe 8 months. So those are the big six emotions. So be able to sit with someone in the middle of those emotions and help return them back to joy.
Because remember too, we didn't even talk about this, that joy, the definition of joy is actually, it's relational happiness. It's knowing that someone's glad to be with me. So when we talk about returning people back to joy in these maturity stages, it's saying I can come back to a place where I know that people are glad to be with me.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that people are glad to be with me. So as I move into the parent stage, it's my job to stay with my child and in their big emotion to know that it's okay. This big emotion is not going to cause me to disconnect from you and leave.
Yep.
And the adult stage, that's another thing that we should be helping others do too. But we see this as really an epidemic in even people that we've been teaching. And for us too, that like when I feel shame, shame actually means I don't believe anybody wants to be with me.
Right.
Or when I'm angry, or when I'm sad, or when I feel hopelessness and despair, like nobody wants to be with me. And so returning to joy is if somebody physically actually stays with us, it's a huge, huge gift. And in our walk with the Lord, knowing that He's glad to be with us. Well,
it biblically says the joy of the Lord is my salvation.
Is my strength.
My strength.
Let's say salvation too. It's early, guys.
I have to look that one up.
No, it is my strength.
It's strength. You're right.
This is funny. So anyway, because knowing that He's glad to be with us, it does help us know that like we are worthy of love and belonging. Yeah. That's really, I mean, Brene Brown brings it down to like a really simple, even secular explanation. But joy is our strength, and it is what powers us through every single day. There shouldn't be a day that you should go by not knowing that someone is glad to be with you. Yeah. And if you do, then it creates a lot of challenges in your ability to do life and to people.
Absolutely. And then quickly, the last two, we'll move on here. It says that you can discipline your children in love. So that's a huge one. And discipline, we kind of had the duality of discipline. We kind of came to that revelation last week, that discipline is not only the when you hear that verse of the Lord disciplines those that He loves, or discipline your kids and all of that, it's not necessarily they did something wrong and now you have to correct them. Discipline also means that there's things in order and things that are creating discipline in their life to be who the Lord created them to be.
Right. Yep.
So
discipline very equally looks like methodical teaching.
Yes.
And practice.
That's so true. So you can discipline your children with love. So you don't just set up harsh rules just to set up harsh things. You don't just say none of that. It's everything I'm doing is I'm looking towards the man or the woman that you are going to become. And so what can I do now as your parent in love to direct you towards that?
Yep.
So, and then the last one is you take responsibility for your own emotions. Now we all know it's a big one. Like if we have children, sometimes your children irritate you, or they get on your nerves, or they make you upset, or they make you mad. That's your issue.
Yeah.
Those emotions that you're feeling are yours. They're not theirs. They're not to be projected onto them. They're not to be say, you make me feel no. Those are my emotions.
Your anger is your responsibility.
Yes, it's
your
not their
frustration is your responsibility.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave that there.
We'll leave that there.
Good luck with that. No, but seriously, it is about learning how to return to joy. And I know even for us, even just in the last few weeks, like we're still practicing this out too, where there's things that come up and it's so frustrating. As your kids become adults, it doesn't automatically alleviate some of those things. And these are things we're still learning and practicing
every day.
Yep.
We just had this conversation a couple days ago.
And so when there's a frustration that happens like this, the last few weeks, is like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, but I'm actually responsible for this part.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do about this? Like I could lash my frustration back, or I could lash my feelings back and try to make the other person responsible for those feelings, especially in a parent-child relationship.
Right. Again, that's protecting them from your power.
Yep. And in your spousal relationship, remembering that you're not responsible for my emotions. I'm responsible for my emotions. Yeah. So good. We won't try to tangent there too much. All right. So here we are. Elder maturity. Let's dig in.
Let's do it.
So that elder maturity stage begins when your youngest child becomes an adult. So 13. Okay. We know that this model is
idealistic
in a way. Yeah. However, brain science supports it.
Yes.
So we were actually created for this to be true, culturally and
historically, biblically.
Currently, where we are in our society, this is not a real thing. We get that. However, we don't want to say that it doesn't matter, because we really believe that it does. Absolutely. And if it could work this way, how different would it be? And I think a lot of what we'll talk about today is, what if?
Yeah. What if?
What if elders were elders?
Yeah.
What if elders were elders? How different would our communities look?
Yeah.
All right. So
I want to read this because it sums it up very well. So most in our culture never make it to this level of maturity, meaning the elder level of maturity. This is unfortunate because the success of any country, community, school, or church body will have a direct correlation to the presence of true elders who are guiding and advising.
Yeah, we need elders. If you think about it, babies can't lead.
No.
Children can't lead. Adults can't lead because they don't. I mean, if an adult starts at 13 and goes to about 25, and then you become a parent, and we talked about parents not just being biological parents, but parents being people who sacrificially care for others as well. You're busy doing that. You're busy sacrificially caring for children.
Now, but when we say can't lead, we're talking about countries, communities, schools, church. But I mean, obviously, you can.
Oh, you can lead a lot of capacities.
You can be a leader.
But a community at large.
But a community at large.
Yeah, you can't do it. You're busy. You're busy doing other things, learning other things, practicing other things. Yeah, learning all the tasks really should be what you're doing, not trying to lead a whole community.
And we'll talk about that.
So that's why elders are needed, because why they're positioned in the place to lead, because like we said at the beginning of the video, they have learned all the stages.
Yeah.
And so they're ready to lead well.
And there's an interesting part of that too, because just because they're leading doesn't necessarily mean that they're in charge.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about that. Because we talk about that too, like, well, if you're leading something, not necessarily.
Right. Yep. Or vice versa. Yeah. Can you lead as an adult or a parent in a large body of people, but still lead well because you have elders who are actually leading the community?
Yeah. So
here we go.
Hold on to that.
There might be a couple bombs dropped.
Okay. So that's right. So the primary goals of an elder is to sacrificially take care of their community with joy.
With joy.
Again, that's the key. With joy.
Nobody likes a cranky elder.
No, not fun.
All right, so elders grow their community. An elder has raised their children, like we just talked about, and is now ready to raise a community.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on the parent stage video about how babies learn to receive, children learn how to take care of themselves,
Mm-hmm.
adults learn how to take care of themselves and one other person,
Mm-hmm.
and then the script flips and a parent goes down, births a child or finds a child in the community, goes down and begins to pull them up through those 3 stages, through infancy, childhood, and adulthood.
Yes.
Right. And so then an elder,
they do the same thing, but now not only are they pulling up infant, children, and adults, they're now reaching back and they're pulling up parents into eldership.
Yes, and through parenthood. Like, let's be honest. True. Everybody's like, gosh, I just wish there was a manual on parenting. Well, guess what? People before you have done it.
Yes.
People before you have done it, and they're huge resources, but we don't value them as resources in our community. And so the job of an elder is also to include that parent pulling up and through that parent stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Elders carry most of the weight of the community because they have the most life experience and capacity to do so.
Yeah, they don't have littles pulling at their apron strings anymore.
They don't have, there's usually not multiple things of like responsibility that they, whether it be a job or a full-time job or whether it be anything like that they have to expend their energy on. They can now begin, their capacity has actually grown so they can help take care and look out for the community at large.
Right. And like we talked about, it's when your youngest becomes 13 is when you technically reach the elder stage, but the maturity piece is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But part of that too is whether or not you have raised your children to maturity.
Yes.
Because if you have a 13-year-old who's still functioning in infant maturity or has not matured through the stages, you can't be free.
You can't be free to be an elder.
To be an elder. Yeah. Right. So making sure that you are also having grown your children through maturity, then that does allow you to free up, because now at 13, that child should be able to take care of themselves.
Right.
What we're not saying.
Yes. Go ahead.
What we're not saying is that, your youngest kid turns 13 and you're like, good luck with that. I'm an elder now. Like, you just survived. No. You still have to bring them through adulthood.
Because again, maturity, I don't think we've said this, but maturity in every stage is this, it starts here and then it goes like this, and you never arrive. You're always still growing, and then at some point they cross over into the next area. And so it's not, okay, you're 13, yay, you're an adult, good luck. No, it's like you're 13, yay, now we have to work on.
Right, now we have a whole new stage.
Yeah. So
but really that adult stage, the key marker to it is they can actually take care of themselves.
Right.
And now they're learning how to practice.
Yeah, practice everything they've learned, everything that you've taught them. Through infant and child. Now they're practicing that, and then they're also practicing that with taking care of others simultaneously, or one other simultaneously.
Yep. So, all right. So when we lack maturity and training, but attempt elder tasks and roles, we often find ourselves frustrated and disillusioned, and often the people around us are as well.
Yeah. So we'll get into that.
Yeah. And often this is when hidden addiction starts to surface. Things that have been used to kind of cope with immature skills up until this point begin to be seen.
Yeah, that's good for sure. Okay, so let's jump into the elder stage needs. Like we said, every stage has needs and tasks. So there's things that elders need, and then
from their community,
and then there's tasks that the elders need to be doing for their community.
Right.
So
for themselves,
really, which actually benefits the community.
Right,
but we'll get there. So an elder needs a community to call their own. In order to be an elder of a community, you need a community.
Imagine that.
Yeah, go figure that.
But it's interesting that it says to call their own.
Yeah.
Like not just some random community that they're like on the sidelines of.
Yeah.
Hanging out around.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in society, it doesn't happen so much today. We're talking about this as we're putting this together, but back in the day, like in my grandparents' day and my great-grandparents' day, probably yours as well, when like you grew up, like you were born, you grew up and you got married and you had a family and you lived in that community for your neighborhood community for 50, 60, 70 years. So it literally was their community.
Right,
like,
very tangibly.
It's like this block, these 14 houses on this block, this is my, like, I know all these people. I know everyone who's ever lived here. Like, I understand what's happening here. And so as you get into that stage, you have a community of people that you can lead and that you can begin to shape, and we'll talk about that. But you just need a community to call your own.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting too in your scenario that not only does that elder call the community their own, but the community calls that elder theirs as well.
Yes, which is also very important because you need recognition from your community to be an elder.
Right. And I think a lot of the discussion that has yet to be had about this topic, I mean, right now we're just going to talk about the maturity stage, but really, what does this look like in our society today?
Yeah.
Because gone are the days where people set up shop. Most people set up shop in one community and stay there through all of these stages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So much transient life is happening now. So what does it look like to have an elder of a transient community?
Yeah.
Like, how does that happen? Should it be happening? I don't know. We haven't even begun to have a discussion about that, but it is a wonder that as we say these things, if you think about like that tangible community, it's like, well, obviously that could happen there.
But I think, we could get stuck here. But I think it can, because again, if you remember, the role of the elder is to go looking for people that they can pull up into the next level of maturity. Yes,
individuals, but it's also about actually having a community.
That's true. So, yeah. So looking for your community. I mean, obviously, the obvious one is church. Where that's a community of people. I don't know. We'll talk. We'll keep talking through that. I don't know.
Okay, so recognition by their community, which is what we just talked about. That there's lots of people that are in an elder stage, could be holding elder maturity, and they're going completely unrecognized.
And they probably are holding maturity.
Well, man, that could be debatable. But honestly, like in that transient community, how many 20-year-olds are like, yeah, let me find myself an elder to help raise me up through maturity? Most, I know me, and I know even like our kids, it's like, oh yeah, I have a grandpa, or I have people who are in that elder stage, but like they're kind of like outdated or don't,
they're far away,
or they don't have the same value, or like they're not, gosh, those days when it was in a neighborhood, it was like that elder was, I don't know, I always picture them like almost like in a seat in the community.
That's actually, yes. They have the seat of the elder.
Yeah.
They're in that. It's almost very, okay. So scripturally, it talks about, that there's the teacher, prophet, apostle, all of those, and there's a difference between operating in those gifts or actually having that seat of apostle, prophet, elder. And I think that there's in with the elders in maturity, it could be said, it could be very similar to that. Like we could have people that are in the elder age that are acting like elders, that maybe have some of the elder maturity, but they're not, for whatever reason, but they actually haven't been put into the seat of an elder in the community.
That's good. Both because probably there's plenty of elders that don't have the maturity to be in the seat, but then their community, those that do, haven't recognized them. Because that is important. That is one of the things that an elder needs, is they need a proper place in the community structure. So I think today, because we can totally get off on the neighborhood tangent, and I think it's an important conversation to have, but one that, gosh, is much broader with so many variations across the nation. But we could talk a little bit about church community, because I think most of our audience, that's what you're going to apply this to, or think about or know about, is, having a proper place in community structure. Well, most churches do have elder boards, or some might call them deacon boards, and deacons,
trustee boards, or things like that. Yeah.
Deacons tend to be a little bit younger, but elders are usually known to be a little bit older into this stage. So we recognize them.
Yeah.
And we even give them a seat, but do we really give them the community to call their own? And are they mature enough to be there?
That's really good. We're going to explore that.
Yeah. So, and really, because part of being an elder and to be in the seat, obviously people have to trust you to be there.
Yeah.
And you have to be worthy of the trust. And be ready to carry the responsibility of that trust of your community.
Yes.
And to actually feel like that's that's something you're choosing into, like you're choosing to carry the trust of your community and their growth.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of, I'm just thinking back to,
see your little wheels turning.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to all of my church experiences from the time I was literally, like, I was born in church. I've been playing drums in church since I was 7. So I mean, like, I've been in church structure my entire life. And I'm thinking back to all of them. Like, I remember in high school, I was at a church when I was living in Michigan, and we had an elder board. It was a large church, probably about 7,000 people, very large church. But the elder board, you didn't know who you knew who they were, because they, like, it was always what I'm getting to before I just go to the whole tangent. They're always behind the scenes. They're never actually working in the church community.
Interesting.
They're always there. So the seat.
Do you find that as a positive or a negative?
I find it a negative.
Okay.
Because if they do have the elder maturity, then they should be out front along with the pastors and the people that are leading ministries and leading the church. But they should, we can going to be all over the place, but they should be setting the identity of who we are as a church. And this is how we behave. This is how we act. They should be speaking. They should be talking. They should be looking for people within the congregation that they can actually raise up into that level, and through relationship.
So the relationship piece is missing.
There was no relationship
like
piece.
There's a role that you knew of.
Exactly.
That was happening
and you see their picture and their wife, and they had all their little tick marks of what they did and their accomplishments and all of that. But that was it.
But there was no opportunity for you to have relationship.
No.
Even though honestly you desperately needed it and wanted it. Benefited from another. Yeah.
It just,
that's interesting.
But I'm thinking literally when we were in Flint, same thing, church we were at. I mean, there was an elder board.
Where were they?
What were they? I mean, so there's all these, I think we shortchange our elders.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But we also have elders who are not mature enough to really
take on the role of the elder,
or have interest in being relational.
Yeah.
Because they're still struggling with some other maturity tasks that make being relational challenging. This stage is truly a dance between people who want elders in their community and elders who want to be elders in their community. This is a dance. Mm-hmm.
Because believe it or not, well, this is optional. It's not optional.
It's not optional.
It's not
Our
optional.
Communities are suffering.
It's not optional. And this is also every part of it too, but we, for whatever reason, we don't understand and we'll talk about this too, but we haven't valued elders. Mm-hmm. So then we don't want to be what we don't value.
Right. Yeah. You talked about this the other day. I think this is such a good point.
We're all over the map. So
we are. Yeah.
But I just think
we talked about because this has been a big question for us since we learned about maturity. Like, why don't we have elders? Like, where are the elders?
Yeah.
Because part of our growth and maturity has been in the last 2 years searching for elders. We're like, we need elders. We need elders. We need elders. We've been parents for a really long time, and our biological parents have either passed away or are not available. And so we've looked in the church for elders to help pull us through
22 years.
Yeah. And especially the last 2 years, no, for us to grow, we actually need these people.
Yeah.
Like a perfect example is one maturity stage I did not learn as an infant is how to receive. Mm-hmm. Did not learn how to receive. So at 40 years old, I'm like, crap, I have a huge gap in my infant maturity because I don't know how to receive from people. Well, that's not my kid's job to fix that. And remember, growth happens in relationship, in community. It's not my husband's job to fix that. Mm-hmm. It's not my peers, my friend's job to fix that. What I actually need is an elder, because remember, adults are in mutually satisfying relationships. So that's, and as a parent now, I'm in a mutually satisfying relationship and I'm in a sacrificial relationship.
Mm-hmm. As an elder.
Who's going to help me? Yeah. That sounds so crazy, but I really needed a parent who would pour down into me so that I could receive from them. Yeah, and we still do. But that would be an elder. Like if there was an elder in the community, they could be the ones and should be the ones who are looking for parents, adults, children who are struggling, mm-hmm. and that they have something that they can bring to the table that they don't need anything back for.
Yeah. And what we've done is multiple generations, for whatever reason, we disregard elders. So this is how we get to this point. We've disregarded elders. And so what I mean by that is that the old saying, well, not the old saying, 40 is the new 30, 50 is the new 40, 60 is the new 50. No one wants to get old. No one wants to do that. Or we get old and we want to go and retire to Florida. I'm not saying that you can't retire to Florida, but you should go find a community in Florida that you can leave. Anyway.
Yeah, but back to your original point about disregarding. So part of the point that you made in our nighttime discussions is that we may not be finding elders in our community because it's not actually something to strive for anymore. Like nobody's striving. Well, not striving isn't the right word because that gets. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. But you went up the mountain. I was going around.
Okay.
Which is fine. Which is how we operate sometimes.
It is.
But no, you're exactly right. Yeah. Is that as children and as whatever, at some point we've disregarded and we don't want to be. We've discarded elders as old-fashioned. They don't understand. They don't know. Like right now, I think the new thing is boomer. Like that's whatever.
Right.
Like all the young folks.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, it's like so. What they're doing is they're completely disregarding
the
value of
the elder
in the community, and so in turn, you don't want to be something you disregard. So you don't want to be an elder because you disregarded elders for the last 40 years.
I want to grow up and be an adult. I want to grow up and be a parent. And then once I'm done being a parent, I don't want to be anything.
Right.
Because what is that? Like, what if it was where it was like my biggest achievement in life is to grow to a place where I have an overflowing bucket of life skills, maturity, relational skills, and joy to give away. Like that's what becoming an elder is.
My job is to just give it away.
And to give it away. Like that's what I'm pushing for. I'm not pushing for that retirement home in the country. I'm pushing for how I can gather all I can gather on this journey so that when I have the capacity and the freedom to give it away, I can give it away.
And I'm at a stage in my life where I'm mature enough to give it away and give it away with joy. And give it away non-begrudgingly and say, this is it, this is me, this is who I am, and this is who we are as a community. So
let's get into that.
Yeah. So let's look at the task of an elder. Okay.
So as an elder, this is when we talk about tasks, this is my job as an elder. Your job as an elder.
We're technically
we are technically in the elder stage, which is like
weird.
Now that we know what we know, oh Lord.
Yeah.
Like
some days I'm like,
no, now that we know what we know, like our kids have been 13 for a long time. Okay. I'm 42, 41.
You're 41, so I'm 43.
Yeah. Why I'm rushing this thing, I don't know.
This year you will be
42. No, it's coming to me. But anyway, our youngest is 20. So we fostered for a long time. So this is somewhat a little weird.
Yeah.
But I'm 41 and I have a 20-year-old as my baby. So technically I'm in the elder stage and I realized 2 years ago, I'm a big baby.
Myself.
Yep. I'm a big kid and I could go around being like, I'm an elder now and I'm going to leave the community because I know all the things, not knowing I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And so, so it's interesting that just even in our own lives, we're like, technically we're elders.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we're growing in maturity still. We've got some gaps we've got to fill. So we're going to protect other elders. We're very young elders.
So there's things that we don't.
Yep. And again, all the stages are like this, right? Yeah. Like we didn't arrive at elder and
we're here.
Like get a throne, get that seat that we were talking about.
Yeah.
No, well, we've still got some growing to do.
Yeah.
However, there was something I was going to say. Now my thought's gone. Anyway, we're young elders, not ready, protecting people from our power because we realize we're not ready. However, this is what I was going to say. However, what we're giving away right now, this is us being elders in our community. This is not us setting some of the things we're about to talk about in tasks, but this is us saying, hey, we have some capacity because we don't have littles. We don't have, we have young adult children and we have multiple young adult children. We have 5, and there's days that they're learning how to adult, and we have kids from trauma. So all of that can be very, it's been a long couple weeks, guys. But we have different capacity.
Yeah.
A lot of our friends our age still have littles. Like elementary age kids, and we're like, oh gosh, we're glad we're not in that.
Yeah, and we've got good friends that literally have like all of the stages.
Yeah, like baby to like
to 26.
We love you guys.
Love you. You know who you are.
God's grace. Thank you. But anyway, all of that to say that we realize that we are in an elder stage because our capacity is different. Yeah. But we're also saying the hard thing of like maturity wise, we're not fully there yet.
We're not.
Because elder is not just stage and capacity, it is also maturity. So these are tasks we're working on going back and working on.
We have a lot of work to do.
We've done a lot of hard work.
We've done a lot of hard work.
Gosh, we've done a lot of hard work.
We've done a whole lot of hard work.
We are not the same people we were 2 years ago, and we're just like so grateful.
Yeah, and so here we go. So task.
Okay, so
let's so we need to
that one?
I'll do this one.
Okay.
Establish an accurate establish an accurate community identity, and by finding out what their community has been designed by God to be, rather than imposing what they would like it to be. Dum dum dum.
Yeah. So what if? And I think a lot of this is going to be what ifs.
What ifs?
Because we don't see this in our community. What if? What if? Actually, this is true.
Yes.
I was going to say, what if Tennyson and Janelle Berry, or Mr. and Mrs. Smith, spent their time asking the Lord, what is the identity of the community that I am a part of? What is it that you've entrusted to me? Like, what if I actually took ownership of my role in this community, even before I'm recognized in that role? What if in the secret place I took my role?
That's good.
Because honestly,
that's good.
Like not to by any means pat ourselves on the back, but when we learned this material, we were like, we have to give this away.
Who can we give this in? Who can and how can?
Right. So we chose to, in the secret place, lean into our role as elders in at least this area over a community that's not tangible
right now.
Yeah. Not tangible at all. But as our community as a whole, we're like, okay, we know what the Lord has designed our community to be. Maybe not our community of people per se,
but our
community as a whole.
Yeah.
And we want to call the community up higher.
Yeah.
But we're not imposing in the way that we're like, if you're not a mature,
then you're not. No.
Like, but come be
it's
all that God designed you to be.
Who God wants you to be and who God designed you to be. Yeah. What if? We value, so elder task is to value all community members and see them as God sees them, looking past their flaws and facades to see the people that they have been designed to be. Yeah.
That takes maturity. And what if as an elder, I owned that role of it is now my time because I don't have anyone else pulling on me. And now I can just freely choose in to seeing people the way that God sees them.
Yeah.
Which we should anyway, like in all the stages. That's something we would teach. But it's different when you take it on as a role.
As a role and a responsibility.
Yeah, and we've talked about we've talked about responsibility.
Yeah. Did we?
Talked about I don't think we have. So little caveat, because we have to also be mindful of time today. No. Responsibility fits here perfectly.
Yes.
Okay.
However,
so game changer.
No, we have not talked about this.
Super long story short. So Paul Young, the guy who wrote The Shack, heard him on a podcast, and he talked about how there's one word that's talked about all the time in the church community and all the time in the secular community, but it's found nowhere in the Bible. And that word is responsibility. And we're like,
what? What he said the closest thing to that word I could find in the Bible was in response to. So let's look at that word. So let's think of all those things. So where we say it's your responsibility to da 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 da. It's your responsibility to take care of the orphans and widows. It's your responsibility to take care of your family. It's your responsibility to whatever. What if we flip that and say, in response to the love that I've received from the Father, in response to the love I have for my family, I will take care of my family.
Right.
In response to what the Lord has done for me, I will take care of the orphan and widow.
Right.
And that's a whole nother one too, because who's the orphan and the widow?
Oh, we're not going to. That's
sorry.
a whole other teaching. But anyway, so in talking about responsibility, when we say responsibility, that's what we're thinking. We're not in response to. So what happens if, in response to what the Lord has done for me and how he has raised me through a life that has taught me so much, and I'm now mature, that I felt like it was that I wanted to respond to that by valuing the community the way that the Lord shows me, and to give me eyes that he has to see people.
Yeah, I think just move on, but I think even these tasks can almost all be labeled in response to.
That's good. Yeah, in response to.
Yeah.
Anyway. Gosh, good. Okay, so elders can act like themselves in the midst of difficulty, and this is actually learned in the adult stage. So remember, like, in any stage, you're literally just practicing the things below
that you've learned. But
after adulthood,
right?
At the adult stage,
and you learn them on a larger scale with a little different nuance to it.
Yeah.
But you're practicing them on a larger scale with a little different nuance.
Yeah, and learning how to give them away.
Yes.
First to one other, and then to your family sacrificially, and now to your community as a whole.
All with joy. So realize and seek. Okay, nope. Seek out those without. I can't.
You good? You want me to?
Got it. Okay. Seek out those without sufficient biological families, because they need real, live, loving spiritual families to heal, to grow, and to thrive. So to realize and seek out. So you're realizing, you're seeing them, and you're looking for them, because you know that without those things, they're not able to heal the way the Lord wants them to heal. They're not able to grow. They're not able to be who the Lord designed them to be before they were born. And so the task is, you're looking for those people. Like we said, you're looking for those you can pull up, and it could be a young man, it could be a child, it could be a parent, it could be even another person in that elder stage with you. But you're looking for those people that don't have what they need physically. You're able to, because again, you have the capacity. So you're able to be that for them. Yeah.
So we think about, and we have been foster parents. So we think about, oh my gosh, there's these children who don't have any parents, and they need parents to be able to make it in life. Yeah. And so we very much in the church get the concept of adoption or foster care. And as a parent, I should, like, what does it look like to offer my parenting and and the gift of a mother and a father to a child who doesn't have a mother and a father?
Yeah.
Elders. There are lots of orphans.
Yes.
There are lots of orphans still out there that don't wear diapers, don't go to elementary school, and aren't even teenagers.
Right.
They are full grown adults parenting who are still desperately in need of parenting.
Yeah.
And parents who will love them the way that they should have been loved in round one.
Yeah. And we were there.
We
kind of still are there.
I mean, the Lord has definitely brought people along, because it's something we've been earnestly asking for a few years now. But as an elder, I have a gift to give away that I can give away to a whole other stage of people that need it. Like I talked about before, like, being a full grown adult who actually has an infant maturity gap of receiving,
right,
or a childhood maturity gap of, I can do hard things.
Which is me.
Yep. So like having an elder come along and say, Tennyson, you really can do that hard thing.
Yeah.
Or what we talked about, I think this is an appropriate place to put it. We've talked about, let's say, marriages that are really struggling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do those marriages really go? Like, where can they safely go? What happens if there's a time that they need to spend apart?
Yeah.
What happens if a husband has an affair and the goal is still to try to work the marriage out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's probably not super healthy for them to be together for that time. Well, that woman cannot go move in with the neighbor that's her same age
Mm-hmm.
down the street who's raising 3 littles. Like, that's a disaster waiting to happen.
Right.
So if I'm a 40-year-old whose husband had an affair and I need a safe place to go, I sure as heck shouldn't be moving in with another 40-year-old man and his wife and his children.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
No.
Not going to work for anybody. Nobody's going to win in that situation. Elders, though, can very safely and appropriately help that woman walk through that stage of life.
Yep. Absolutely.
And help that man walk through that stage of life, right? Because how many marriages do we know of that are super struggling, in trouble, and they're looking around saying, who can help me?
Who can help me?
And most everybody who's around is like, hey, dude, I'm busy, man. I have my own struggling marriage. I've got kids.
Again, it's
Mhm.
it's that capacity.
Capacity.
The capacity to do it. So
And maturity.
and maturity, capacity and maturity, I think are the 2 big things.
Yeah, because the dangerous part, like,
We'll get
if you
there.
had an immature elder who welcomed a 40-year-old woman into his house with his wife, not good.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind too,
Yep.
that when we say elder, we're talking mature elder.
Yeah. Another thing of this too, another task is that they're parents at large to its community and its identity.
Yeah, this is so
So
good.
I love this part because the elders, again, their job, again, they're looking down so they can pull up to maturity, but they're also saying, this is who we are as a community. This is who we are as a people.
Mm-hmm.
This is who we are. This is how this people group lives.
Yep.
This is how we live.
Setting that standard.
We talked about that, setting an identity.
Yeah, you're right.
opposed to
Not
setting
and a standard. That's true.
Yeah, we'll get to
That's
that
true.
one
Yep.
too.
Setting
Yeah.
an identity, not a standard.
What's important to us as elders? I look at the community, and over my years of life, we can look and say, this is what's important to us, and this is how we will attack what's important to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, what kind of child, what kind of infant, what kind of adults, what kind of parents is this community going to hold?
Yeah. Who are we?
Who are we?
Who are we in all the stages?
Yeah.
What is our identity? Because we've talked about in the last video about parenting is that we know one of the key things that a child needs is identity. And up until the age of 13 is what we've got in order to instill identity in our kids. And again, it's not about setting standards. We talked about this, that like as a parent, you don't want to set a standard for your
Right.
kid. They'll promptly probably choose a different standard at some point.
But it's an identity.
But it's an identity.
It's
like, who are you? And I'm calling that out of you. And so again, back to that very first thing we talked about was elders should also be looking at their community as if it was their child.
Yes.
And this is, well,
That's so
I
good.
hadn't talked about this. If we went back through all the maturity stages or even through the parent maturity stage and thought about it and use the word community in place of child. You
Wow.
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Because the community is its own
It's its own
kid that has to go
yeah.
through its own stages
Yeah.
of maturity as a whole.
Yeah.
So elders setting that identity piece of this is who we are and how we act.
Yep. It's that statement of like we've told our kids, and I'm sure their family's done the same thing too, but like this is how we're berries, and berries don't do that.
Right.
Or berries do this.
Yeah.
This is your last name, this is what we do. This
Right.
is who we are.
Yeah. Now remember too though that this should not be about the elder at this point. Like no more than the statement of we are the berries and this is what we do. So if in
Yeah.
that statement we're saying to our kids, we are the berries and this is what we do,
that's so
because
good.
I have to protect my own
reputation. That's so
reputation.
good.
like
Yeah.
like
It's
yeah,
gross.
gross, and not good because
Yeah.
then it's about you as a parent saying, oh, as berries we do this because I care very much about how we
Right.
appear to everybody else, and we have to do things at a certain standard, instead of saying, no, like this is the depth of who we are, this is our identity, this is who the Lord created us to be, because I sought the Lord for my children and I know who the Lord has created them to be. And I'm fully invested in seeing that happen, not for my benefit, but for their benefit. Because that's really what a parent is. A parent is one who's saying, I'm going to seek the Lord for my child's identity and then invest my life into
For
it
their benefit.
for their benefit.
Wow.
and for the world's benefit. For the world's benefit.
So you take that family, that small nucleus family thought, and you move that up a level to an elder having that same thought process for their community.
For their community. I'm going to seek the Lord on the identity of my community, and I will spend the rest of my life investing to see that they become all that the Lord has created them to be.
Not because, not to make me look good, but to make him look good and for their growth and best
for them to thrive and be all that they were created to be. Again,
it's that passing lane. That's another part too. As an elder, you're creating another passing lane. Now the lanes are wider.
But what's interesting about that, to the passing lane, is back to the conversation we had earlier, is that elders don't create passing lanes because, like, what do you like? If you're a parent, the only person you can pass is me. So if I'm worried about me and my little throne as an elder, then I'm not going to create a passing lane for you, because then you're going to be cooler than I am or have more power than I do. Whoa. So, that's really interesting, because really though, even as a parent, my goal is that you become a better parent than I do.
Yes.
That all the things that I miss, I really want to see you not have to miss those.
Yeah.
That's my deepest longing.
Yes.
So as an elder, I should have that same deep longing that I'm raising you to be an elder. Like, that's actually my end stage goal. Just like as a parent, I'm not just raising my kids to be good kids for the rest of their lives. Like,
I'm raising my kids to be good adults, to be good parents.
Right.
To be better parents.
Right. But we don't ever think about, I'm actually raising my kids to be good elders.
Yeah.
What if?
Okay. Let's go. Let's move on.
Okay.
So good. We got less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
this is gonna be fun. Ready?
Yeah. So true elders can handle criticism and rejection.
Yep. They have their identity down.
Yeah.
And they can take it.
And they can say what they need to say. And I'm sorry, but this is who we are. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, but I'm secure.
Yes. But also too, this is not about me.
No, not about me.
And that's, I think, really as much
I'm sorry.
as
I went the other way.
Is not about like, that's your problem. I know who I am. Too bad. Because we see that.
We have that.
We see that.
Sorry.
That's not protecting people from your power.
Yeah.
That's using your power to not raise others up into who they're called to be.
Yeah.
Thank
you for the correction.
Yeah, no,
you're right though, because I said that wrong.
These same 5 words can be taken and twisted and used to be people.
You're correct. And so thank you for that. Yeah, it didn't come out the way
but true mature elders wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it didn't come out that way. Yes, but you can handle criticism and rejection. You can handle that.
Yeah, so in other words, I can shoulder that, and I can take a very honest look at, do I have areas that I need to grow? I'm mature enough to say, maybe there are. And I can also take, if that criticism and rejection comes out of somebody else's woundedness, because remember, I'm going down and pulling up some people who are not there. They've got some growth to do, and we all know growth can be super messy.
Yep.
So if they reject me in that messiness, I can still handle that.
Yeah, that's good. You can speak the truth in love, even when it's not easy or popular. The true elders can do that. You can serve without being appreciated.
Yeah. But you also still need a place.
Yes.
Like there's that dance.
Again, it's not, I need your approval to serve you, or I need you to say good job.
Right. I don't need that anymore. I'm plenty mature. I've had lots and lots of good jobs in my life, and I know that I'm serving out of my heart, not for your approval, because I'm mature. I don't need that anymore.
Yeah. You can encourage needed growth and change.
Yep, I can see some of the things in my community that need growth, need change, and I'm not afraid to speak up about that.
But it's also, again, like we said earlier, it's seeking the face of the Lord as of what that looks like for my community. So,
and notice too, it says encourage. It doesn't say like demand, browbeat.
Yeah. Let's see, delight in younger people's skills and power. So you take pleasure in seeing young people thrive and succeed in their successes
and them getting their little wheels going on that passing lane.
Absolutely. This is the one: create identity, not standards. So it's not, we're going to live up to this because we have to be this. It's nope, this is who the Lord called us to be. So this is our identity, and we need to live inside the identity that the Lord created us to be.
Yeah, and your identity, because I'm calling you fully into being who you're called to be.
Right.
I think we see this all the time, even right now in the stage of parenting that we're in, especially parenting adults. Because remember, elders, you're going to be parenting adults still. The community, you're not going to go down and necessarily take care of the baby. They have parents, most of them do, or there's parents in their own parenting stage that should be taking care of that baby. We're not saying that. We're saying we actually need you as parents for parents and parents for adults that didn't have that. And one of the things we're learning in this stage of being parents of adults is that we could choose to say, like, this is our standard. This is what we expect of you in your life right now at this stage. And we could get stuck on that and damage relationship in the process. Totally lose the whole point. Nope. Or we could approach, and this standard might even be the appropriate thing, whatever that is, right? However, we have to come at it from a place of, this is actually who, it's not about this. It's like, this is actually who you're called to be. This is who we are, because we are world changers. We set standards, or we set examples, not like standards like bars in life, but yet we live to live a full and abundant life, to be all that God created us to be. And we are each unique and each have our own purpose, calling. Each of us are a specific gift to this world, created to bring something that the other person sitting next to you cannot bring. And so it's not about you being this. It's about you being the fullness of who you are. And if you're living below the fullness of who you are, I'm coming after you. I'm coming to help raise you up.
That's so good. We have the statement on here too. It's about true elders are not necessarily leading the community, but they're in the background shouldering the weight of the community. I know earlier I talked about that relational piece, but there's another piece of that too. Like, this is very true. You may not be the one leading that community. You are the one. You can very well and easily be in the background setting the identity of the community, for sure. But we also, I don't want to just say you're just back there doing it, because I really believe that there is the relational piece that elders need to be participating in to really be true and complete and full elders. And for themselves, for the community, for who the Lord's called them to be, and who he has called the community to be. Yes, this statement is very true, but there's also the relational piece to that I think needs to be added to that.
Yeah, because again, we have like only a few minutes, but we got into this whole conversation about pastors and how most pastors are in the parent stage of life. Most of them are raising their children at the time of pastoring. And we're like, oh shoot, like, does this mean that like
parents?
I don't know. We just started asking questions like, should pastors not be at the parent stage? Should pastors be at the elder stage in order to be a pastor? Like, wow, that would, like all the little feathers just get ruffled in that thought, like, no,
And I don't believe that's true. I do per se, but I do believe that you need a mature, wise, elders that will walk alongside you and help you lead the church, lead that community, because again, your job as a parent is
your first job.
Your first job as a parent is your nucleus family. That's your wife, your children, and anyone maybe that you brought into your home. That's your first job. And so, but when you become an elder or a pastor of a church, you literally are.
A pastor of a church. Let's talk separately.
Thank you. A pastor of a church, you are now leading a community.
Just by the title. The sheer job description.
A pastor is you are the leader of that
community.
And you may not have all the skills needed to lead the community because you're still leading your family.
Yeah, and you may not, as we learned, may actually not have the maturity skills that you need in that stage. And part of that sacrificial.
And it's not a knock.
No, it's not.
No.
This is us even just evaluating our own lives. Like, pastors, like, that have never been parents and learned how to sacrificially love someone at the cost, at their own expense.
Not at the expense of their family.
Right. No, I was just saying, like, pastors who've never learned to sacrificially love their children, like have an opportunity to love their children, don't know what it looks like to sacrificially love a community.
Yeah.
Oh, but you were saying sacrificially, but not at the expense of their family and children. Yes. Yeah. So, right, because we see that time and time again, where you do have pastors whose first calling is actually their family and to sacrificially love and give to their family, but they're now in a role where their responsibility is to care for the entire community, and they do not have the capacity, like we talked about, as an elder, to do both.
Yeah, and
to do both,
because you can't, and that's the thing too. You can't operate in joy fully in two areas and two maturity stages at once.
No. So back to the statement that you made that brought us into this conversation is that's why elders are so key. Yes. Are we saying that that no pastor should be raising children at the same time? No,
not at all.
I do personally have a question about really how well that works. We haven't seen it work well. In most models, it doesn't work well. However, if there were elders that were back to shouldering the weight of the community, that were setting the identity of the community, that were relationally available to the community and saying, we're here to see your full growth happen. And we might have an amazing pastor who is a great preacher or a great deliverer of the word, or because what we love about adults is that they're the world changers.
Yes, the adults are.
The adults are the ones who set the world on fire with their ideals and their passion and their energy and all the things that we don't want to miss out on because we're talking specifically church context right now, but in the church community, we don't want to miss out on that stage of life and the energy and passion,
creativity, all of those things
that it brings to the table. However, if it's the full job of the pastor to also set all these other pieces that the elders should be setting, it kind of is a recipe for disaster that we've lived over and over again. So I think there's an interesting conversation to have about that cannot happen in the next 5 minutes.
Right.
But what if, again, it goes back to that what if there were really, really healthy elders who were fully relationally invested, who were in the background, but also in the foreground of leading and bringing the church community into its full identity while also parenting that pastor, which that also has not usually been seen to be done well, because most of those elders that are in the elder role are not in elder maturity.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So again.
Here we are. But what ifs?
What ifs?
What ifs? Okay.
And so the last part about this, which is
this
is my favorite too. So we're anyway. True elders live and act out of joy. We call them absolute joy ambassadors. Or
joy wild cards,
carriers of joy. Yeah. So they are like, free agents of joy. That's the word. Free agents of joy. It's so great because it's like it's the grandma or the granddad that you see at the grocery store, and what they can do is they can come up to you and they can call the gold out of you, and they don't even have to know you. That's the thing. Like they can look at your 12-year-old that you're like, oh my Lord, I'm going to pull my hair out. If this kid, they can walk up to that kid and say, you know what, you are such an awesome young man. I can see what, and that's going to bring them joy, and it's going to, that your son, and they're going to like, oh, okay. But like, they can just walk up without even knowing you and give you encouragement and give you joy. And they have the capacity to do that. For
women, I think about this often, like if a peer of mine walked up and said, gosh, you're just beautiful today. Like awkward. I think like as a peer woman, there's just this weird, like, I don't know, a weirdness about it. But if a grandma walked up, this sounds bad, grandma, we all have our little pictures. An elder walked up to me and said, you look really beautiful today. Wow. It just carries a different weight.
Yeah.
And there's joy that's available where it's not that weird, like, exchange of like, do I have to say you're beautiful too? Like, you can freely receive from elders because they have these and should have these overflowing buckets of life and joy and giving, to where you don't have this weird need to feel like you have to give back to that elder.
And they don't
expect it back.
Expect it back. It's just like, I see who you are, and so I can speak that into you.
And celebrate that. Like, I have nothing to lose by celebrating your beauty. I have nothing to lose by celebrating your accomplishment. I have nothing to lose by celebrating who you are. And if you are like bypassing me on this lane that I've created, I literally can cheer you on, because I don't have anything to gain or lose by your success or by whatever amazing is that I see in you. Whereas unfortunately, I think pretty much every other stage still feels like there's some sort of a jockey there of that's like, well, I'm on the passing lane too.
That helped me. So they are ambassadors of joy walk cards, free agents of joy. Pick your name.
And those of you who are elders who are listening to this, go be that today. Like, doesn't matter if you watch the other videos and you're like, man, there's gaps here and there. Go be a free agent of joy. Do it. Our community needs it.
Yes. So real quick, we're gonna I do want to run through about two of these. Just what happens when you become an elder too soon. We've hit a lot of these already. So I don't need to go over all of them, but we talked about can damage your marriage and your family. Through neglect your children. Parents focus on their family unit. The scope of an elder is too large for a parent.
Right. To try to both be an elder and a parent at the same time, it's not possible. The scope of both roles is far too large. To do both well simultaneously.
You can. One of the things I think is important here is you can damage the potential elder's development. So let's say, for instance, if I've become an elder too soon over a community, and I can kind of do the things, but what it does is, one, there's no joy in it, and I'm leading from a place of fear, and I'm being an elder out of fear because I want to make sure I get it right. So I'm afraid I'm going to mess it up. Two, so what that does, it damages my growth to be an elder, a mature elder, because I'm operating in a place I shouldn't be operating in.
Right. It's kind of like that pseudo parent role.
Pseudo elder.
So you're a pseudo elder instead. You're forced to do what needs to be done, but you never learn how to do it fully out of joy or out of maturity.
I think this one's interesting. It could, if you're an elder too soon, you could create damage in your family by introducing dangerous people into your home. Because one of the things that, again, elders have the capacity, and our heart, and a lot of people's heart, is huge, and they want to help people, and they want to bring them into their home.
Well, it's what we talked about before.
We did cover that. So it may not.
Like, people who are hurting that are adults should not necessarily come into the home of a child. That it's important for us to protect our children in the parent stage. If you have small littles at home, inviting another adult into your home to help them grow, heal, or mature is not necessarily the best situation. However, an elder is free to do that. But if a parent is in the parent stage is trying to act like an elder, it can end up damaging the family, or could end up creating abuse situations for children. Another big one that just sticks out to me is damage wounded. If you're an elder too soon, you can damage wounded or lonely people who really genuinely need help. I think that this happens a lot in the church, where you have people who are functioning in elder role by job description, but don't have the maturity, but are expected to somehow have the maturity. And people who really genuinely need help from their pastor, really genuine need help from their leadership is not capable of giving it, just because they're in a different stage, not because they're bad people. Again, this is back to that discussion of what ifs, and what if instead of, hey, my marriage is struggling, I need help, so I go to my 40-year-old pastor to ask him what to do and how to help me, and then walk away really, really wounded because he can't, because maybe he's only been married 5 years, and like for us, we were married 20 at 40. What if there were elders, mature elders? It would relieve the responsibility of that parent stage pastor to try to help and try to fix. They end up having to fix because they can't actually be relational at that stage. They're busy should be busy being relational with their family.
Yeah.
But what if there were elders that could easily take their joy capacity and their life experience and their maturity and say, I am completely available and ready to help you walk out your marriage.
Absolutely. And I don't have anything else to say with that. I just think that's great. I mean, so really quickly here too, so the primary task to be completed of an elder is sacrificially take care of the community with joy.
With joy, yep.
And then the primary resulting problem is that the overall, if not completed some of these things as adults, the overall maturity of the community declines.
Mm-hmm. And we see that. Yeah. We see that. I think our churches are struggling as a community. Most of them are.
Yeah.
Because there's just not strong elder maturity that is really calling the church up into who they are.
And I just want to say this too. This is in every arena. So business, family. We talk church because that's what we know. That's what we've spent all of our life in, and so that's what we've seen.
Yeah, we didn't. So we didn't spend a lot of time in this discussion talking much about
the business
what that would look like in the business world, like we have in other maturity stages. But you do see this in business. Just
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. And again, like you see a boss who might be in the parent stage who should be busy taking care of their family. Busy not in the way of like busyness, but busy
but doing the
being
task,
about the business of raising up their family, and instead their job description is requiring of them a capacity that they just don't have. They can't do both.
One last statement on that. What if, so we talked about like, what if we looked at we interchanged child for community, right? Well, what if you interchanged your business and community and child, that child, that same,
meaning if I'm an elder in the business world, what would it look like to raise up the identity of the employees in my business?
Yes, and the identity of your company.
Of the company. That's good.
So think of it that way too. So like I said, we spend a lot of time with church because that's what we know. But what if you just take what we said about that and the elder and put that into whatever arena you are in?
Yeah, as an elder, whatever arena you're in. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, because I didn't think about that when we were originally talking about community. Absolutely can look like a business setting.
Yeah, you set the identity of your business. Like, this is who we are as a corporation. This is how we behave. This is how all of my managers are going to be like this.
Yeah,
all of my supervisors are going to be like this.
Yeah, but again, not as a standard.
Right.
But going down into the people that the Lord has sent onto your team as your employees and drawing out of them exactly who the Lord has called them to be. And if you're spending your time before the Lord asking him, what is the identity of my business? What is the identity of the people in my business? What have you called us to do to change the world?
Yeah. Yep. Wow.
What if?
Wait, really quickly, and then we're done. Go ahead.
So practical personal tasks.
Yes.
So we promise every time we're going to give you some really practical things that you can do. So personal tasks, this is if you are an elder. Step one is actually go, if you haven't, watch all the other videos and go find the gaps that are more than likely there. That's not an indictment of anything besides you're human. And most people who are in an elder stage biologically have missed some really key things in other stages of maturity. Yes. So I would say step one is go find out what those are.
Yep. And then ask the Lord, how can I work on that? And who can you bring in my life to help me work on those areas of my life that I need? Number two, I think, is seeking healing for unresolved wounds. So what I mean by that is, when you're in the parent stage, you're sacrificially giving. You are giving your life and your time away to your family. So there may be unresolved wounds in your past prior to being a parent
or during parenthood.
Let's be honest. That you just don't have time to work on. You don't have the capacity to work on it. If I go there, I'm going to go down for a week or two, and I can't afford that with my kids or whatever.
Right. I've got kids I've got to take care of. So can't really take care of myself like I need to and should right now. Right.
So you can go as an elder. Again, you've got the capacity and the time to go and do that. So
do that first.
Yeah. Begin healing those unresolved wounds. It's important because it's going to help you lead better and be able to serve the community better, and you just have more joy
and increase your capacity as well.
Yep. Ensure all other maturity stage tasks are completed and continually practice.
Practice.
Again, the key is practice, practice, practice.
Yep, maturity never ends.
Yes, so you're always practicing those
hitting
skills.
that elder stage is not an arrival. Again, we talked about like you get there, but then in every stage you're growing all the way through, and there's always crossover into heaven. Who knows what life will be like there?
I think you're going to be maturing there because we never arrive.
Yep. And what does it look like for you to bring that leadership into heaven?
Oh, come on.
Anyway, all right.
Let's see.
Find a place in your community to establish, call out, and raise up its identity.
Yep.
Please, 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 please. If you are and you have gone back and done the work and you are at a place of maturity, even if it's like, there's a part of me that's like, even if it's not perfect, you're not going to be perfect. We've been working 2 years and still like learning and growing and doing all the like practice. This isn't about like, go put yourself in a cave and fix all the things for the next 20 years. And then maybe the last 2 years, let's go ahead and be an elder already. I'm not saying that. I'm also saying don't come in as an immature elder and think that's going to work out well either. So let's just
find that balance.
Find the balance, and then do what you can do where you are healthy. That might be the best way to put it. So where you are mature, where you are healthy, please bring that to the table.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. In the areas where you're not healthy, be honest about that, and don't put yourself in a position where that's going to potentially wound other people. But we desperately need elders. And if you are not at the place of maturity that you want to be or need to be a great elder in the way that we talked about, a mature elder in the way we talked about, do the work, but also don't be afraid to help other people. Don't be afraid to create that passing lane, knowing that you may not, this sounds harsh, but you may not get there. Like in a parent stage, like when we were parents, we were not ready to be parents in a lot of ways. We were super immature in a lot of ways. I think we did a really great job in other ways where we were mature. So, but our job now is to see our kids be better parents than we were, right? And so as an elder, if you're in that elder stage, and even if you're not the best elder, or you don't have everything it takes to be the full elder that you feel called to be, that doesn't mean that you can't go help other people become that and create that passing lane. Yeah,
for sure. And like, I think that's so key when you said, what's your capacity, and do what you can do at that stage. That's right. And then be a free agent of joy. Just go out, like Janelle said earlier, just go out and you tell that young kid, you are awesome. You tell that parent, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You tell that, whatever.
Tell that person that is unseen that they're seen.
Yeah. But bring joy wherever you go. Bring joy wherever you go. And then just real quick, some just practical community tasks, so things that we can do to help our community, to help raise up elders in the community. So you want to recognize elders, look
around. If you see people who are in that elder stage.
Yeah, they're in the elder stage. You see the maturity in their life. You see that they're trusted. You see just all those qualities that we've talked about. Go recognize them and let them know that you see them in this place and that you want to either learn from them or be around them, or
go glean from them. Remind them that they have something very valuable for the community. Call it out of them. Again, they have likely not been honored in their role. And because our community just isn't set to do that anymore. But now you know that they need to be drawn out, just like you needed to be drawn out. And so go receive from them and go encourage them to pour into you what they have to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Seek them out, like we said earlier, and value their role in the community. Again, like I said earlier, we don't have elders because we disregard them. And that whole thing of like, I don't want to be that, so I'm not going to be that. So go value them. Value the elders.
I think actually too, part of that disregarding has come from people in the parent or adult stage who think they have all the answers. And so they disregard the value and the wisdom that an elder brings to the table. Because they don't like it, because like you used the words earlier, old school or whatever.
We talked about it. We all have parents that have tried to parent our parenting.
Yeah.
And we just disregard what they say.
And then only to find out, like, let's be honest, only to find out later, like, oh, that was actually, if I would have done that I would have saved myself that trouble. Like, they did actually know what they were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, just that statement alone reminds you that you really could benefit from an elder.
Yeah.
And so call them out and engage with them and pull from them, just like you would want them to pour into you. Let's awaken our elder generation.
Yeah,
let's awaken them.
We need them.
Yeah, we need them
We have to have them.
In this COVID life. There's been so much discussion about them being our vulnerable population. And we think of them for some awful reason as weak. And they are not. They truly should be the strongest members of our community. And so what would it look like to call them to strength again?
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then the last one, this is another huge one. The community, or you, need to provide opportunities for elders to be involved with those in other maturity stages. Mm-hmm. So you need to create a space for elders to be elders in the community that they live in.
Yeah, and that multi-generational piece is important.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about how key elders are to people in the parent and adult stage. Man, grandmas are important for littles. Yeah. They really are. Yes. And getting that multi-generational, and we talked about this in our very first video when we were awkwardly like, hey guys, we're going to do this thing. Multi-generational is something that burns in our heart, because we understand even more now than we even understood 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just the value of even a child getting to experience the value of an elder.
Yes.
And that's where that begins. That's where they begin to build their role in our community, is when that little sees that elder functioning as an elder and realizes that is where like the gold sits.
Yeah.
In our community.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
If we remember that is where the gold sits, then things could and should look much, much different.
Yeah. Wow. Well, awesome. It's so good.
It is all good.
Guys, thank you for hanging out with us and being here this morning with us as we went through elder maturity. Again, this is our last one on the maturity stages. Mm-hmm. So we are taking next week off.
Yep.
So we won't be here. I believe that's the 2nd, I think is the date on that. I don't know what that date is, but we will be back the week after next with something completely new. And as of right now, we are not sure what it's going to be.
We have so much good stuff to say.
So we need to figure out what we're going to do. But,
so, hey, it'd be fun.
Yes.
I don't know who will even see and have watched this all the way through.
Do it.
If you have things that you have heard from these videos and you're like, I want to know more about that, I would love to hear a whole discussion on any one of those things, or on something else along these lines that we've maybe alluded to, or that you wonder if we carry any knowledge in.
Yeah.
Tell it. Like,
go ahead and comment below.
Comment below. Send us an email.
Yeah.
known@tableandwellco.com would be the place to send that to. Let us know. We would love to continue this discussion on things that also burn in your heart.
Yeah.
So
awesome. All right, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
Have a great day. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.